Hello and welcome to another episode of Google's SEO Office Hours. In these videos, we aim to answer your questions about SEO and Google search. These questions were submitted using the form link below over the past month. To answer them, we have folks from Google's search quality team. Joining us today are Martin, Gary, and me, John. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Beth asks, we allow our content to be syndicated. However, many times the syndicated version appears in Google Discover despite using canonical links. How can we avoid this? Well, this is timely. We just recently expanded our guidance for syndicated content to help cover this. The link rel canonical is a signal which helps us with canonicalization as a hint. If your content is being syndicated and you don't want the syndicated versions to appear at all in search, we recommend making sure that the syndicated versions also include a no-index robots meta tag. This blocks them from appearing in search while still allowing users to access the page normally.
Hi, I'm Gary from the search team. Sagar is asking, is it okay for two domains with different TLDs to target the same country for the same keywords? Well, my gut reaction is whether this would be confusing for your users. Two domains each having presumably the same content might be pretty confusing. From a policy's perspective, this might also seem like search result manipulation, and maybe you don't want to go there. I'd check out our spam policies for that too.
Ant is asking if Lighthouse JavaScript warnings for libraries with known security vulnerabilities do have any influence on page rating or ranking. Hi Arndt, thanks for the question. No, generally that doesn't have any input on ranking. However, it is a really bad idea to ignore security warnings and issues. I highly recommend you fix these as soon as possible.
Sean asks, how do I block Googlebot from crawling a specific section of a web page? On the product pages, we have an also bot section. This often features small add-ons that are not a big part of our website. The short version is that you can't block crawling of a specific section on an HTML page. There are, however, two similar things. You can use the data no snippet HTML attribute to prevent text from appearing in the search snippet, or you could use an iframe or a JavaScript piece of content whose source is blocked by robots.txt. Using a roboted iframe or JavaScript file is usually not a good idea, since it can cause problems in crawling and indexing that are hard to diagnose and resolve. If this is just for content that's reused across your pages, I wouldn't worry about it. There's no need to block Googlebot from seeing that kind of duplication.
Someone's asking, I submitted a sitemap, but it's not showing in search results. I'm assuming that you are talking about the URLs, in which case I would remind you that sitemaps are a way to tell search engines where your content is, but that's pretty much all. It won't guarantee that the URLs you supplied will be crawled, and it definitely doesn't guarantee they will be indexed, both of which depend on the quality of the content and its relative popularity on the internet.
Corey is asking, why does structured data show errors on Google but not on schema.org? Google Search Console is showing errors for an invalid enum value in field return fees, but our schema.org test says no error. Please advise. Thanks for the question, Corey. Schema.org is an open and vendor-independent entity that defines the data types and attributes for structured data. Google as a vendor, however, might have specific requirements for some attributes and types in order to use the structured data in product features, such as our rich results in Google Search. So, while just leaving out some attributes or using some type of values for an attribute is perfectly fine with schema.org, vendors such as Google and others might have more specific requirements in order to use the structured data you provide to actually enhance features and products.
Arndt asks, does the integration of security headers, such as for HSTS, have a ranking influence? No. The HSTS headers do not affect search. This header is used to tell users to access the HTTPS version directly and is commonly used together with redirects to the HTTPS versions. Google uses a process called canonicalization to pick the most appropriate version of a page to crawl and index. It does not rely on headers like the ones used for HSTS. Using these headers is of course great for users though.
Bill is asking, does Google do any kind of comparisons between current and previous XML sitemap versions to see what's new or what's being removed from a site? Well, the absolute answer is yes. We will not reprocess a sitemap that hasn't changed since it was last crawled, but that's just a software optimization not waste resources, like computing resources. As soon as you change something in your sitemap, be that the URL element or last mod, the sitemap will be parsed again and generally reprocessed. That doesn't mean that the URLs will be surely crawled, of course. They are still subject to the quality evaluations like any other URL. It's also worth to mention that if you remove a URL from the sitemap, because perhaps it doesn't exist anymore, that doesn't mean it's automatically going to be dropped from the index or even prioritized for crawling so it can be dropped sooner.
Maro Sami asks, what is the difference between an XML sitemap and HTML? And what is the resolution of this case in Search Console when it says, your sitemap appears to be a HTML page. Please use a supported sitemap format instead. This is an unfortunate consequence of using pretty much the same name for both the XML file as well as for the HTML page. A HTML sitemap can be helpful for users. It's more like a higher level map. An XML sitemap is only for crawlers. It's a file made for robots. To add my personal opinion, an HTML sitemap is often a sign that your website's navigation is too confusing. So I might try to fix that instead of creating a sitemap page.
Animesh is asking, how does Google treat structured data with parsing errors? Well, it doesn't. If some structured data doesn't parse, we can't extract the information that it may contain, so it's just ignored.
Are numbers in the URL bad for SEO? Are they a bad idea to include in the URL? No, numbers in URLs are not bad. Use numbers, use letters, use non-Latin letters, or even use Unicode symbols if you want to. The only thing I'd avoid in URLs is temporary identifiers that change every time you visit a page, since this makes crawling very hard and confusing.
Claudio is asking, why is my website URL blocked? Well, it is not. It's well and happy. It's just not ranking. I check out our SEO starter guide to get an idea of what you'll need to do to get lift off, and then get more tips from other reputable SEO-focused sites and people like Moz and Aleda Solis, respectively.
Index bloat. Is that a real thing that impacts Google crawling and indexing? I'm not aware of any concept of index bloat at Google. Our systems don't artificially limit the number of pages indexed per site. I just make sure that the pages which you're providing for indexing are actually useful pages. But that's independent of the number of pages your site has.
Someone's asking, how do I block Googlebot from even touching my site reliably and permanently? Not for a few months or something like that, but forever. Well, the simplest way is robots.txt. If you add a disallow / for the Googlebot user agent, Googlebot will leave your site alone for as long as you keep that rule there. If you want to block even network access of Googlebot, you'd need to create perhaps a firewall rule that loads our IP ranges into a deny rule. You can get the list of our IP addresses following our docs about verifying Googlebot.
Michael asks, can an SEO company get a Google approved badge? I'm not aware of any Google SEO certification. There are certain certifications for certain products, such as for Google Ads, but I'm not aware of one for SEO. For official certifications, I double-check the source directly rather than take someone's word for it.
Anonymous is asking, can having multiple navigation menus hurt SEO performance? A main menu with all the most important categories of the site and a secondary menu to enhance categories related to brand extensions. It's highly unlikely that having multiple navigation menus will have any effect whatsoever on your site's SEO performance.
I tried to get HTML and ASPX pages to index, and only a few of the pages got indexed, and the rest of them are not. I need help. From our side, there is nothing special with these file endings. URLs with these endings can be normal HTML pages, and we can index them. Hiding the ending does not change anything for Google systems. For general questions about crawling and indexing, I'd recommend checking out our help community. The folks there can be super helpful.
Shin is asking, I see two results from the same domain but different web pages, and the second one is slightly indented. What is that? Well, good question. Those are called host groups. You can't really influence them with markup or anything, but it's a telltale that you have more than one page that can rank well for a certain query. You might want to consolidate those two pages perhaps, if it's possible at all. You can learn more about host groups in our visual element gallery.
Arndt asks, is a fake Googlebot allowed? It mentions the official URL, but is on a different IP address. Unfortunately, anyone can specify any user agent name. And it happens that scripts use a Googlebot user agent name in an attempt to appear legitimate. We publish the IP ranges that Googlebot uses, as well as a way to confirm that the requests are legitimate in our documentation. In your particular case, the IP address that you mentioned maps back to Hetzner Online, a hoster in Germany. If you're seeing many requests like this, it might be worth contacting their abuse department.
Mohammed is asking, is there a way to disavow IP addresses instead of domain names? No, there isn't.
What is the purpose of using NOODP, generally found in Blogger? Well, that's a blast from the past. Google has not used this robots meta tag in ages. It goes back to the DMOZ Open Directory project, where sites were listed with a short description. The meta tag told search engines to ignore that description. The Open Directory project, or ODP, does not exist anymore, and this meta tag has no effect. It also doesn't cause any problems, so leaving it is fine as well.
Frederick is asking, since April 13, a video has to be the main content of a page if a thumbnail should show in SERPs. Does main content mean that the video has to be the absolute first element on the page? Well, no. Think about the user's perspective. They end up on your page and then they have to actively look for the video instead of having it basically in their face right away. The former is pretty confusing, and that's why we are looking for videos that are the main content, basically in your face. If you look at the large video sites such as Vimeo or YouTube, then you can get a sense of what our algorithms are looking for.
And that was it for this episode. I hope you found the questions and answers useful. If there's anything you submitted which didn't get covered here, I'd recommend posting in the Search Central help community. There are lots of passionate experts active there who can help you to narrow things down. And, of course, if there's anything more on your mind, please submit those questions with the form link below. Your questions here are useful to us and to those who catch up on these recordings, so please keep them coming. If you have general feedback about these episodes, let us know in the comments or ping us on social media. In the meantime, may your site's traffic go up and your crawl errors go down. Thank you, and see you soon. Bye.